guys? Welcome back to the Mic Check Podcast. This is T Word, the People's Champ. Thanks for tapping in. Today we're going to talk about boxing and the face of boxing and where things stand before and after Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia tango on April 22nd in Las Vegas. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you for supporting. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so for those of you that follow me and Quinton Lilley on Twitter, you'll notice that we had a conversation over the last couple of days about the face of boxing and what Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia means to the formula for determining who's the future of boxing in terms of marketing and things of that nature. Now, specifically, we were talking about Gervonta Davis made a comment after his New York press conference with Ryan stating that he's the face. And while I disagree that he's currently the face, I do believe that he is the future face of boxing. Now, the argument that was presented to me by Quinton was that Gervonta isn't the face and he's not going to be because he's missing some things such as corporate sponsorship. My rebuttal was simple. You don't need those things in this new digital market. The marketplace has changed so much from when Canelo Alvarez rose to the top of boxing to now that some of the things that were required to be considered the face of something has changed. I use the example of different sports. When you look at the NBA, since he joined the league 20 years ago, LeBron James has been the face of the NBA, but he's not always been the highest paid player, specifically talking about salary. Now, when you start to add in endorsements and things like that, sure, your salary goes up, or your total revenue goes up, but that doesn't really change your popularity in a necessary way. Now, when you relate it to boxers, they have some of the smallest endorsement deals. Tyson Fury and Canelo Alvarez have $5 million and $6 million in endorsements. The rest of their money is salary, and they both are in the top 15 paid athletes of 2022. What that tells me is that having endorsements as a boxer isn't what's going to make you the face. What's actually going to make you the face is becoming palatable and popular amongst boxing fans and casuals. If you can walk down the street and poll 100 people, will they be able to tell you who Gervonta or Tank Davis is? Will they be able to tell you who Ryan Garcia is, or Canelo Alvarez for that matter, or even Tyson Fury? I believe that these gentlemen have all taken different paths to the top of the sport. Tank Davis has a very exciting style. He KOs pretty much everybody he faces except two guys. That's going to sell, just like Mike Tyson back in the day. For the younger viewers who aren't familiar, what really made Mike Tyson popular, people didn't even recognize that he was a pretty decent boxer until after he actually lost. Up until that point, he was a knockout artist, at least on paper, because that's what you saw. They marketed him as a knockout artist. Gervonta Davis is very much in that vein, even though he's actually a really good boxer as well. I might say that from a boxing side, he's better at boxing than Mike Tyson was at his peak, because I can see Tank competing with the upper echelon of boxers and his contemporaries, whereas when Mike Tyson got into facing better boxers, he actually struggled throughout his career. Guys who didn't fear him and who he couldn't just knock out, he actually struggled. I don't necessarily see that in Tank's future. So I think that he's going to have a larger window to actually be marketable, not just as a knockout guy, but as a really good fighter. Then you look at Canelo Alvarez. His rise came on the back end of a generation littered with name brand boxers that he was able to attach his name to and actually fight them, and that raised his profile. That's also the Floyd Mayweather formula. He did the exact same thing. He fought all of his contemporaries from the generation and era before, and he was able to raise his profile as the villain while facing them. Next up is Tyson Fury. He actually is really good at playing the villain role. I don't know if he's a nasty person, to be honest, but I could tell you that his being opposed to Deontay Wilder, who was seen as an everyman, especially in the U.S., made him a villain instantly because he talked trash, he disrespected, and he was just really ugly and nasty to Deontay, and that made him rise to the top. You got to think about it. If he didn't run his mouth and all that in the lead up to the fight, you really have no fight, because Deontay can sell himself, but he can't really sell the other side of a fight. He can't talk up an opponent. When you look at some of his other opponents like Bermane Stiverne and things like that, nobody really knows who they are besides the crazy knockout that he got on Stiverne, right? So when you look at that, he needed the right dance partner, and here comes Tyson Fury, who's the perfect bad guy. and he's raised his profile based on that. Now, obviously, I'm speaking from the American point of view, but then if you look at overseas, Tyson Fury actually has some notoriety across the pond, and that's good for him. But coming over here to America, where this conversation is kind of based, a lot of sport is based around your popularity in the States. Tank Davis has risen to the top of that chart. I believe that at this point, he has more popularity than guys like Errol Spence Jr., Teofimo Lopez, Terrence Crawford. He's more popular than them. And I believe that the formula is already in place for him to be the next face of the sport, barring him going to jail in the next year. Like I mentioned on Twitter, I say next year he can take that crown. There's two reasons it works. Number one, he's got some really good fights he can line up, and if he'll take them, it's going to really raise his profile win or lose. He can fight Shakur Stevenson, and he can fight Devin Haney. Those two fights are actually skillful fights that's going to represent who he is as a boxer. And those are two fights he mentioned he wanted to get before he retires, which according to him is in the next couple of years. Now, when you look at Canelo Alvarez, the current face of the sport, he's going to have to either fight better competition, or the demand to see him is going to reduce, which is going to make him less of the face than he's been recently. There just haven't been a lot of good guys fighting other good guys. So he's been able to stay at the top, just fighting, just being active. Now his activity is slowing down and he's not taking on the best competition. I think that's going to hurt him in the long run and prevent him from continuing to hold his spot at the top. Not to mention he's been around for over 15 years. Your star starts to fade after a period of time, especially when you're not competing at the highest level. And I just don't think that he's competing at the highest level. Even when he fought Dimitri Bivol, not many people knew who Bivol was, but they actually figured out who he was after he won the fight. If he had lost to Canelo, nobody would really know outside of boxing circles. So I think the general point that I'm making here is that the old formula for face of a sport is changing. Often it's simply just who is marketable and popular. And it's not going to matter if you're getting endorsements or sponsorships. It's going to matter, do you have a following on social media? When you post something, do you get 1 million views? Do you get 500,000 views? That matters more, because you could take your own platform and generate the income that any endorsement would have given you. And you actually have more control over the content, and you don't have to worry about fitting into a box of what their image is. So in my opinion, I think Gervonta Davis is poised to be the next face of boxing. And as long as he's not going to spend any significant time in jail, I also believe that he can attain that crown within the next 12 to 18 months. So we'd love to get your thoughts. That's just my opinion. Obviously, Q's going to come back with a video and give his side of the case, but we'd love to get your opinion on my perspective. Again, this has been T-Word for the Mic Check Podcast. I am the People's Champ. Until the next time, we'll see y'all. Peace.